What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we are counting down the top 10 characters from Wave 2 of the Transformers trading card game, Rise of the Combiners. This list was made much easier by all the lovely folks over on the unofficial Facebook group answering my poll, helping us out. Thank you very much, lovely people on the Facebook group. Now, I am going to give an honourable mention before we start to the new Megatron, Arrogant Ruler, and maybe it's because I was lucky enough to be able to reveal this and I'm just a little bit biased, but I like Megatron Arrogant Ruler. When you attack in bot mode, you can scrap an upgrade and draw 2 cards. And then in alt mode, when you flip to it, you may play an upgrade. If you want to play an upgrade heavy deck, this has got your back. I also do need to give a shout out to Optimus Prime Gleaming Commander. Doesn't make this list, and I understand it doesn't really exist on its own, but when you start the game with it, you get to put 3 Sentinels in your KO area. As far as skills go, right, that's pretty great. Although, as a number of people have pointed out, how is it not a truck in alt mode? The answer is because there's only space for 4 designations and it's a leader, sentinel, and melee, but it kind of looks like a truck to me. Alrighty then, so starting off at number 10, we've got Acid Storm. And Acid Storm was one of those cards from Wave 2 that when we saw it, we went, ooh, that's really nice. It stops enemies using bold. And there are certain decks like Metroplex, for instance, where bold is incredibly important, where they really rely on bold. Against those kind of decks, it's absolutely brilliant. In alt mode, when you flip to this mode, for each card in your opponent's scrap pile that has at least 2 orange pips, repair 1 damage from this, although it is a 10 health character, so it's not going to last too long. But it's a 6 cost character that is a hard counter against bold decks. That's got to be worth having a play with. In at number 9, we've got Secret Rare Windblade, or Super Rare, I should say. The very first card we saw from this set. Now, it's not a terribly cheap card. Well, literally because it's a super rare, but also in terms of it's a 12 cost. But it's really nice. Now, in bot mode, it's a little bit situational. It's got PS4, but only against a combiner. But in alt mode, when you flip to it, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's got at least 2 different color battle icons, you can play it. Now, we talked about this in the Slipstream video we did recently. I'll pop a link in the description. But there are 21 cards now that have double icons that aren't the same. That's pretty good. And you get to play an extra card. And you're playing it from the top of your deck, so you don't have to have it in hand at the time. That's kind of nice. Bot mode is a little situational, but still, attack of 6 is very high, and we've got good skills here. In at number 8, we've got Warpath. And Warpath is basically the opposite of Acid Storm, but weirdly gets an extra skill in bot mode. So in bot mode, enemies can't use tough. And in alt mode, when you flip to it, you get to do 1 damage for each double blue icon your opponent's got in their scrap pile. So it really is the opposite of Acid Storm, except it also has PS2 in bot mode, which is a really nice extra skill. The stats are fairly poor, although to be fair, in alt mode you do have average defense and average attack. And in bot mode you got free defense, which is pretty good, but then the 6 health is tiny, half of the average. But the fact of the matter is, you're a 6 cost character, you're a hard counter against tough, and you've got PS2 and another nice little skill. This is pretty nice. People are calling this the best partner for Omega Supreme, given that together they add up to 25 stars and they're both tanks. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We don't seem to have found the best deck list for it yet if it is. But either way, I've got a couple of Omega Supreme, so I really hope with Warpath it becomes amazing. Incidentally, Omega Supreme did not qualify for this list. Although it's a promo around about Wave 2, it wasn't in Wave 2. In at number 7, we've got Blurr. In bot mode, below average health, average defense, pretty good attack of 6 to be fair. But it's ult mode where this really shines. And bearing in mind the stats aren't great, and it's a 12 cost, so it's going to have a pretty good skill, because oh yeah, it's vanilla in bot mode. Expensive character, vanilla in 1 mode, stats which, admittedly the 6 attack in bot mode is nice, but outside of that, really not very inspiring. Well, the great news is the one skill it does have is phenomenal. When you do attack damage to a tapped enemy, while there is at least one untapped enemy, this untaps and attacks an untapped enemy. Now, first of all, this gives you a second attack, and having a second attack is great. But secondly, you get to attack an untapped enemy. Generally speaking, unless all your opponent's characters are untapped, you've got to attack a tapped character, which limits your options and means that your opponent can play keep away, stop you attacking the character that they want to keep safe. Blurr gets a second attack while going after this character earlier than your opponent wants you to. Yeah, that's good enough to put it on the list at number 7. In at number 6, we've got Motormaster. Now, there are not many combiners on this list. Incidentally, the actual combiners that are combined, clearly not on this list. It would not be fair to compare them. Don't worry, we'll do a video ranking the combiners later. So if Motormaster is going to be on the list, and I'm going to spoil a bit of a surprise here, it is the only combiner that makes this list. It's going to have to be pretty gosh darn good. Well, the fact that it's a 5 cost helps, because it's very, very cheap. But really here, it's the skills. In bot mode, when you would defend, you can put the damage to a different Stunticon. Fine, but only in a Stunticon deck. Obviously, the stats are bad because it's a 5 cost. They're alright for a 5 cost. But it prevents, when you're in ult mode, all non-attack damage from your opponent's cards. So that's characters like Thundercracker, as well as battle cards like Armed Hovercraft. Any time your opponent would do any damage other than physically attacking, you get to prevent that while Motormaster is on the field. Now, it's only to your other characters, not to Motormaster, but it just does really hilarious things like, hey, Nemesis Prime, you've got to choose a character to take the damage. So you choose any character other than Motormaster, that damage isn't done, you go home laughing. It's a really good skill, which is going to do an awful lot of good in an awful lot of decks. And because it's such a cheap character, you actually can put it into some non-Stunticon decks. That's why it's the only combiner that makes the list. In at number 5, we've got Skywarp. Skywarp is that really fun card, which is also a little bit risky. Now, it's not the cheapest card ever, sitting there at a 10 cost. And the stats are, to be honest, they're not great. The health of 13 is nice. Other than that, we don't like the stats. But in bot mode, once per turn, when you play or flip a battle card that has no battle icons, +3 attack and +3 defense until end of turn. This is really nice, because you can either flip it while battling, or you can just play a card with no battle icons, think something like I Still Function, and you get this boost, at which point the stats actually become pretty gosh darn nice. 3 defense, good. 6 attack, good. And then when you flip into ult mode, you return a card that has no battle icons from your scrap pile to your hand, which means you can play a whole bunch of different cards with no battle icons. One of my favorites is Bolt of Lightning, that just does a flat 3 damage, but please do remember that Bolt of Lightning is a star card, so you don't get to have a 25-star deck if you're playing this. But you can play a variety of them, and then yay, you get it back when you need. Just please do be aware of the fact that you don't get the orange and blue flips when you're flipping this, which could be a slight problem. You could be lowering your attack and defense by playing this. It's a balancing act. but I like it very much indeed. In at number 4, we've got Blitzwing, one of these triple changers, another one of these secret rare cards. Yeah, there are 4 super rares and 3 of them are on this list. But then again, they're super rares, they're 1 in 50 packs, they probably should be pretty good. Now, Blitzwing has 2 ult modes, it's a triple changer, and in terms of the stats here, we've got 5 attack in bot mode, which is pretty nice. We got 13 health, which is pretty nice. Now, it does come in at an 11 cost, which is moderately expensive, but you've got some really good skills. In bot mode, when you attack and flip at least an orange and a blue, you draw a card, and then after the battle, you flip to one of your other modes. And the synergy of itself is brilliant here, because your other modes either give you Brave, your opponent has to attack you if they can, or Stealth, your opponent cannot attack you unless they have no choice. So if you're, say, the only tapped character, they would still have to go after you. But outside of that, you get some protection. And you can, most of the time, make sure you're not the only tapped character. So you can either tell them to bring it on, or you can go and hide away, depending on what you actually want to do. That's really nice, especially given that there's a bit of draw power and really not bad stats. Plus, of course, one of the best things about this, you can be a tank or a plane and take advantage of tank or plane cards depending on what you want to do. In at number 3, this was a one big departure I made from the folks in the poll. I apologise if this upsets anyone. We've got Thrust. Thrust is a very, very interesting card indeed. Now, in terms of a cost, it's a 9 cost, which is not too bad. And it's vanilla in bot mode. And 5 attack's alright, but it's still not particularly great. But then we get ult mode. Now, ult mode's got a defense of 3, which is high. And when one of your other characters attacks, you may tap this, and then the attacker gets extra attack equal to this character's attack. So essentially, you tap Thrust so that you can smash even harder with one of your other characters. And a lot of the time, what this really means is, hey, go and get a KO when you wouldn't otherwise be able to. So okay, you are giving up an attack this round, but by the same token, you're taking a character off the board. That's probably worth it a lot of the time. And there is obviously, and I know most people have already figured this one out, a great combo with Grenade Launcher here, because Grenade Launcher gives you +4 attack and falls off when the upgraded character attacks. Thrust isn't attacking, ladies and gentlemen. He's just boosting someone else's attack, so Grenade Launcher stays on. In at number 2, we've got Bumblebee. I am in love with this new Bumblebee, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely adore it. It's a 10 cost, which is slightly high, but it's a melee character or a ranged character, depending on which mode you're in, giving it a lot of extra tricks. It's got an attack of 6 in bot mode, which is really quite high. And when you attack, you may scrap an action from your hand and draw 2 cards. Quite nice. You'll notice this is literally the action version of Megatron. This is for actions as Megatron is for upgrades. Which does make it sad that this gets in at number 2 and Megatron misses a list entirely. Boo, hiss, etc. But the real way that Bumblebee shines, when you flip it into ult mode, you may play an action. And yes, if that action is Brainstorm, you can then play 2 actions. One of the things I really like, and one of the things I'm playing around with personally with this, is that you've got Autobot Mirage in the first set, who in ult mode has the same skill, and is a car as well. So you can actually play a 3-wide deck, you'd have 6 stars left over to play with, where you play both of these and just get a huge amount of actions. But in at number 1, you probably shouldn't be surprised to find it's Starscream. And this has been talked about a lot over on the Facebook group. It's not a particularly uncommon theme. People have decided, realized, phrase it how you will, that this Starscream is really quite good. Now, it's a super rare, and it is a 13 cost, which makes it, along with a couple others, the most expensive character in the game that isn't a Titan or a Combiner. But the stats here are really good. 15 health is really high. Attack of 6 and 5 is really high. The only bad stat here is a defense of 1 in bot mode. Now, when you flip into alt mode, you return a card that lets you plan from your scrap pile to your hand. And generally speaking, although we have other options, it's going to be Decepticon Crown. Decepticon Crown's pretty good. Because you see, when you flip Decepticon Crown while you're battling, you get +3 attack and +3 defense until end of turn. So if you're attacking, you have 9 attack. And if you're defending, you have 4 defense. And either of those are really, really high. Now, incidentally, you don't want Decepticon Crown in your hand. You really need to get it on top of your deck. But you'll be playing a bunch of other cards that plan, and then you can use that to put Decepticon Crown down, etc., etc. The fact that flipping into alt mode gets you one of these cards back to help you manipulate it to the top of your deck, good. But the fact that you have ridiculous stats here really is a little over the top. When you're rocking 9 attack or 4 defense, yeah, that's pretty gosh darn good, ladies and gentlemen. And you know at some point we're going to get a card that helps out Decepticon leaders, which is only going to make this better. All the hype so far has been about Starscream. It was the runaway winner of the poll when I ran it. And I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like it's pretty well founded. The only real question now is, when am I going to pull one of these from a pack? Because I would very much like to. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's the top 10 Transformers from Wave 2. And I did do it slightly democratically by using the poll from Facebook. But I would love to know your opinion on all of these, ladies and gentlemen. So let me know in the comment section. And remember, if you do a full top 10 list, we can be friends. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games like Transformers, but there's a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.